This has been another fascinating week for me.
Tell us more.
Well, it started out on Monday with me blurting out at a meeting something that hurt feelings and had a falling out around it, and that I pretty much regretted doing right after I blurted it out. The week ended with a healing with somebody else that I've been, praying for a healing for a couple of years now. Both those things happened in the same week. And it just let me realize my own fallibility, my own humanity, that what this teaching is really about is our intention, right? Like, I intend to be an awake, caring, loving person. That's my intention. I don't always pull it off great. Maybe you don't either. Or maybe I'm the only one. Yeah. And so we go through these in the same week, right? And so I got to, which was great in one essence, because I got to watch myself go through. It's like, I'm not perfect, I'm fallible. Okay, what do I do after I've had this blurred out and this all happened? I do what I can to make amends, because, cleaning up messes is something I've gotten very good at in my life. And so I reached out. I highly recommend getting good. Instead of trying to be perfect, just get good at cleaning up messes. It's easier. Because if you're going to play in this world at any level, you're going to make messes. And to try to avoid all the messes you might make makes for a very small life. And so being willing to make messes and then getting better and better at cleaning them up, that's the better way to go, in my opinion, on the matter, in terms of my experience in the world, right? Because, and it isn't like I want to continue blurting out stuff or whatever. I'm certainly working on that, because my intention is to be a loving presence, right? That's my intention. My intention is to be awake. It's to be loving. And when I don't pull that off in the way that I'd like, well, then there's a mess to clean up. And so when I know there's a mess to clean up, I'm actually happy to go clean it. It's not even hard for me, right? I want to go clean it because my intention is to be a loving person. It's not to get defensive. It's not to think, I didn't do anything wrong here. Now, I used to be that way. I used to be that person who would get all up about, I didn't do anything wrong here. But I've realized that doesn't have me be a loving person, defensive. I've been thinking a lot this week also about war and how what we're doing and the nature of it, because it seems so natural to me that we war inside our own heads. And if we're warring inside our own heads, of course that's what's going to manifest, because what we embody manifests, right? So how do you do that with yourself? How loving can you be with yourself? Because that's the limit that you can be loving with elsewhere. If you want to know where your limits are, it's the limit you have with what you accept about yourself is the limit you will accept about the world. I hear people all the time talk about the complexities of life. And I have to tell you that it doesn't look that complex to me. People do what they do, and how do I respond, and then what do I create with that, and how do I express? Because people do what they do. And it gets complicated when we start thinking about, well, I need to control that. Now it's complicated. Because if I don't control that, it's not going to work out the way I want it to. Now it's complicated. Control is very, very complicated. I mean, just look at how hard it is to control yourself. And then there are people in this world who think they want to control a kingdom or a country or whatever, a company, a community, whatever it is that anybody's thinking, this is how we need to control this. This is how we need to contain it. We need to contain the damage. Right? Now it's complicated. Now it's leading down roads that have so many variations, so many different ways it can go. It's like a chess game, right? I love playing chess. And one of the things about it is the amount of different moves that can be made are just so incredible. And so it's a fun game, but when you try to do that in life, the iterations you're dealing with get very complicated, and that's when people think life is complicated. It's complex. Well, it is if you're playing life like chess. Instead of coming from your heart. Instead of looking at people get to do what they do, and our job is to express in a way that's loving, kind, and supports the larger goodness of the world. Then it's simple. It's really simple. And it's been very simple for me this week. Right? And the first thing I did with anybody who had a conversation with me about what happened on Monday was say, I screwed up. No doubt about it. Didn't defend it, didn't do nothing, just said, I screwed up. Now, I don't have to, several years ago, I announced that I don't experience shame anymore, and I don't. So I don't feel any shame around it. I'm just looking for, how do I clean it up? What needs to happen here to clean this mess up? And so that's what I was working with all week. Now, while all this is going on, some of you may know my wife, Ash, she left town last Friday. Thursday was Thanksgiving. I have, for my entire 70 years, held that as the biggest holiday in my life and spent it mostly alone. And my heart really ached around that. And so Ash called, checked in on me like 10 times throughout the day. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I felt very loved. I felt very taken care of. It was this marvelous feeling that there was a time where if Ash was gone on a holiday like that, I would be angry at her for leaving me. And so the last thing she would want to do is call me, right? How often do you like calling somebody who's angry at you? Right? But that's not who I am now. I could just feel my heartache without blaming her because she's out with her kids and her family and doing exactly what it is she's supposed to be doing. She didn't leave me. She went to be with people she loves that she doesn't get to see very often during a holiday we both care about a lot. And I chose not to go. That was my choice. In the past, it's been my choice too, and I still got angry at her. Right? So she's once again, she's calling and saying, this is so much nicer to call you now. Talk about self-care, right? I got nicer towards the world, and the world treats me nicer. Self-care. Right? We think that sometimes we're looking out there and doing these things out there is what creates, then we have to do self-care. Well, what I've noticed is the nicer and kinder I get, that self-care comes back to me right away. People treat me nicer. Go figure. And so I'm thinking about war. And I'm thinking about how all we're looking at is degrees, right? We're hardwired, right? This is the thing that came to me this week, was that, and maybe it should have come to me sooner, it didn't, whatever. This is the week it hit, that we are hardwired for survival, and then when we don't feel it as kids, we don't feel that sense of survival, it creates something in us that makes us never feel satisfied with how much we get. There's an old saying, you can't get enough of what it is you don't really want. Because what you really want is to be loved, satisfied, and cared for. I don't mean cared for like, somebody's paying your rent for you or nothing. A lot of us, we grow up, we want to do that for ourselves. We want to stand in our own personal power. But it's not independence. Independence, another crazy idea, right? Like there is such a thing. We are so interdependent on everything. It's crazy when I hear people talk about independence. Well, they need to be independent. That's not possible. Try stopping breathing and seeing if you can do it without air. Try not drinking or eating. Never mind the fact that we actually, heal when we are in relationship deeply. Like love heals. There's this cliche, love heals. There's a reason it's a cliche. It's true. Love heals. The more we experience love, the more we heal. That has been my experience in life. Love heals, right? And so what we have that no other creature that's hardwired for survival, viruses are hardwired for survival, but they don't have a conscience. But we do. And this conscience is this thing that's been growing since humans came into existence more and more. There's this whole study done on violence and the per capita violence in the world. And they were able to and I don't know how they did this study, and maybe they're full of baloney, but I liked it. And the idea of it being that per capita, per person, because there's 8 billion of us right now, there is way less violence than even 5,000 years ago, than even 500 years ago. That as much violence as we see in the world, per capita, per person, it is down dramatically. And that it's going in that direction, that there's a slope to it that's going in that direction. But it takes time, and we get impatient because we only live 100 years or less. So we want to see these huge changes in our own lifetime, and in so doing, the funniest part about that is impatience is something that creates wars. Right? Anger, something that creates wars. Misunderstandings, something that creates wars. And so we have this hard wiring that has us react in these ways to what is going on, even if what we want is for something better to happen, that actually adds to the side of warring as opposed to the side of peace. And the only way to be on the side of peace is to not war with war. Gandhi said, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Yet, we keep doing that. Well, that guy wronged me. I want justice. Am I saying we shouldn't have justice? I'm not saying any should here because we're hardwired for it. I'm just saying that if we're actually going to be an awakened society, there's so many ways in which we look at what's going on that we think is fair, that we think is justice, that we think in these certain ways, that if we don't awaken to the higher way of what are we embodying as individuals, we're not then adding to the collective that which would actually transform something. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Not so much? I get it if it doesn't make sense because I'm still working through all this myself, but this is what happened this week, was me thinking about this, working with this, seeing how simple things like somebody wanting something good for themselves, impacting, and which they have every right to. The thing about it is we have every right to survival. We have every right to feel good about our lives. It's just simply that it doesn't transform anything. And so it's this I don't know, dichotomy, I guess is the right word, to how we are being in the world. First off, if your life doesn't feel great, if your life is you feel like you're suffering, of course, your first Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Your first step is to you want to get that in place for yourself. You want to have a joy-filled life. That's what we teach here. We teach here how to have a joy-filled life. And then I thought, well, that's what we're doing. And then if we don't make it to the next step, which is actually looking outside ourselves, looking at how are others doing? For instance, the rate of homelessness just keeps going up. I was at the food bank 2 years ago where they said, this was 2 years ago, where they said the year before they were doing 36,000 meals a month, and that it had already jumped in 1 year to 72,000. The rate of homelessness is rising at an extraordinary rate, and yet most of us are still looking at, what can I get more of? I do it too, I'm in there too, right? And so this is what I've been looking at this week is, where am I in this? Where am I in that world of making sure I'm taken care of, and in so doing, not adding to the world of we want a better place for everybody, because there is a oneness here, right? We talk about oneness a lot in our teaching. And it's occurred to me that on one hand, we talk about it in a way of our ability to use, our founder, Ernest Holmes, said there is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it, right? And so there's that piece of it, that when we get clear on that there's something larger than ourselves here, it actually does add to the joy of our own lives. But then there's this other part of oneness is that we're actually connected to that homeless person. We're actually connected to those teenagers in the Sudan that are being raped. That we are literally connected to that. And that if somehow we don't address that connection, if somehow we just sit here and say, well, I can't do anything about that, so I'm just going to take care of this here, then everything stays the way it's been, because people are, we're really good at getting our own quality of life up. And the people that aren't to come here to learn how to do that. And so this week for me has all been about, okay, we're human. There's nothing wrong with what's going on here. There's nothing wrong with the way that we behave. And there is a shift going on that will continue long past our lifetimes. And wouldn't it be great if at least we had the intention, even if we didn't, couldn't do it all the time, the intention of having in as a possibility that there is something we can do to support the rising of others, the rising of the homeless, the rising in the Sudan, in all of Africa, the rising in the Ukraine, the rising in the Palestine Israeli thing going on there. If there was something that we could do, and I don't know what it is, I'm just knowing that I'm open to the possibility, and I'm open to the intention of that it will show itself. And when it does, when I feel like I have somehow added to the mess of that continuing to make sure I clean it up, so that I can be adding to the good that's possible in the world, because that's my intention. And I am certain that it's all yours too. I don't think anybody would show up here who really didn't have an intention of a better world. So I know that we're all in this together in terms of our intention. And how often are we focused on that as a result? Focused on, this is what I'm looking at now. Not whether I can buy that next suit or whether I can buy that next computer because I need a better, stronger computer, or the new iPhone, or whatever it is. But then taking a moment to go, do I really need that? Or is there something I can do to raise up somebody else? Just asking the question shifts things. Even whatever you decide to do around that. asking, and here we are, the Christmas season, the holiday giving season. So maybe that's what got me going. Thanksgiving, I'm sure, had a lot to do with it. Just starting to think about all the ways in which I personally go out to get another shirt so that I can look cool up here for you guys. Instead of going, well, I could take that same money and I could give it to the food bank. Or I could go out and start looking at ways. One of the things we were involved with in Burbank was we found the center, the Burbank Center for Spiritual Living, found a center where we cooperated with a bunch of other churches to support homeless people in being retrained for new jobs and giving them a place to stay in the meantime, and so that then they could the organization had housing for them after their training was complete so that they could go and actually move into homes. And it was a small program, but it made a difference for those people. I got to meet a bunch of them personally. And I thought, I would love to be involved in something like that. I don't even know if we do that here, but I haven't looked. But it occurred to me it was time. It was time for me to step up and go, wait a minute, there's more going on here than me. And it's not like I don't think that way anyway, but it is that way when I think that way when I want to go out and, buy whatever for myself. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying have the thought of this other possibility about the people who have way less than you. Because the billionaires, they're not gonna. So that leaves us. And then if enough of us start acting that way, maybe then they will. Maybe it'll catch on. There's this thing called critical mass, right, in the world. There's this thing called critical mass, where if enough of us awaken, enough of us start behaving like we actually are connected, that it feeds into the rest of society without everybody having to go through everything we're going through in terms of our growing edges to get there. So it's a thought, right? I offer this as an idea, as a thought, to just begin the structure of that the me, mine, and ours for your group it means there's another, and forgets that actually we're all connected throughout the world. There's nobody we're not actually connected to. In a physical way, in a quantum physics way, we're all connected. And so we might as well take care of each other and awaken to that, because if we can do that, then we may see some change, real change. It's happening. It's happening anyway, whatever we do. But we can have that intention to move it forward. And I hope you'll join me in that. Thank you. I love you.